Hi there, BookTube! My name is Christina and welcome back to Novel Niche. As promised, I'm filming this video very late. But let's look at the bright side. That way you don't have to wait for these books. They're already out, so you can go out there and buy them all. That's the excuse that I'm giving myself. Anyway, today I'm here just in order to share with you actually the titles that really made me excited this summer. It doesn't mean that I bought them because I'm on a book buying ban, but it means that these are titles that made me interested and that I saved on my wish list, and maybe one day I will buy for myself. So let's start with the part one of this video, I believe, because otherwise it will be huge. This summer so many books came out, so this will be a part one, and this is just for the books that were released in June, which is insane. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 books only in June, and I've not even collected all of them. These are just the ones that made me more excited. So let's start with the very first one that was released at the beginning of June. It's a graphic novel, it's the third one, but don't get discouraged. Just read the previous two because they're absolutely worth it, because it's the third one in the Tea Dragon Society. This is actually the Tea Dragon Tapestry one. And this is a cute, lovely, fuzzy, heartwarming, amazingly cozy read. Perfect for every season, but mainly for autumn, so it's just amazing in autumn, but it goes throughout all of the year, so just give yourself a favor. If you're a tea lover, a fluffy lover, a lover of good vibes, go for this one. It has something in it for everyone, for children, for teenagers, for adults, for elderly people. Just give it a try. It goes around these magical creatures that are tea dragons. So they are small tiny dragons that grow leaves on their heads, and with those leaves you may make some tea for yourself, for your beloved ones, and that tea has magical properties. So just give it a go. Please do yourself this favor. I will always stand for this graphic novel, so please. Next is a standalone, and it's a historical fantasy LGBTQ+ one with this beautiful cover. It's The Chosen and the Beautiful, and it starts with 3 words that are like buzzwords, huge buzzwords, because it's immigrant, socialite, magician. And I don't really want to know anything else. I remember that I saved this book because of the plot too, but I don't really think that I need to know anything else. Amazing cover, 3 buzzwords there, so I think that I will love it, and I hope, finger crossed, that I will find it on my storybook. Is it storybook? Yes, it's storybook, that Storytel that I'm using for my audiobooks. Oh, plus it is set in 1920s. Again, a huge buzzword for me, or a huge buzz date for me. So, again. Next is the first in a fantasy series, that's the Jasmine Throne, and this is a fantasy LGBTQ+ adult romance book, and it is set in a fantasy world that's heavily inspired by India and Indian lore. So I believe that this one will be amazing, and in this one we're following 2 female protagonists, and they are, what was it? It's a captive princess and a maidservant who are in possession of forbidden magic, become unlikely allies on a dark journey to save their empire from the princess's traitor brother. This is an amazing premise for a fantasy story, so plus it's set in India, or kinda in an Indian-like setting, so I think that I will love this one. Next one is a historical romance, like with a bit of fantasy in it, I believe, but this is The Mysterious Society of Lady Scoundrels, and it's the first one in a series of books, I believe. First of all, the cover is just amazing. Second, the only thing that you need to know is what Goodreads tells you, like in the first 3 lines, I believe, because it says, a prim and proper lady thief must save the aunt from a crazed pirate and his dangerously charming henchman in this fantastical historical romance. Mind blow. It has everything. I mean, I love it already. I want to read it so much. It seems wonderful and funny and romantic and just a bit nonsensical, but who cares? Next one is a fantasy young adult retelling, and it's the retelling of The Prince and the Pauper. That one, that fairy tale, The Prince and the Poor Relative. It doesn't come to my mind how to pronounce the word. Pauper, whatever. And it's Sisters of the Snake. This is the first installment in a duology or a series, and again, this is heavily India set, like, or in an Indian-like setting, in which apparently we're following a lost princess, a dark puppet master, and a race against time before all is lost. So why not to give it a go? It sounds lovely and interesting, plus 2 female main characters, so what not to enjoy? Next is a young adult fantasy, and it's the first one again in a series or a duology with this amazing cover. It's Blood Like Magic, and for this one I will read you directly what Goodreads says, because apparently it's a rich, dark urban fantasy debut following a teen witch who is given a horrific task, sacrificing her first love to save her family's magic. The problem is she's never been in love. She'll have to find the perfect guy before she can kill him. Again, amazing premises. What not to love here? So I for sure will give it a go. Plus, again, I love this cover. It's amazing and alluring, and I love this combination of pink and purples. Just lovely. Next is a mystery thriller that I've already seen around BookTube quite a lot. Apparently is quite well received, and it's The Maidens. This has an amazing cover and really reminds me about like Donna Tartt's Secret History, even if I've not read that one, but it will be on my auto TBR this year, I believe. And in this one we're following Mariana Andros, who is a troubled group counselor, group therapist, I believe, and she is sure that a professor at Cambridge University is a murderer, but he is beloved and almost kinda has the devotion of this group of female students who call themselves the Maidens. And I think that it's like the definition of dark academia in its finest. I don't know if I will enjoy the story, but the premise is great and very interesting and alluring. Then we have an adult graphic novel, I believe, for a collection of short stories. I don't know if it's in a graphic novel format. I think so. Yeah, it's in a graphic format. And it's the Tanglewood Palace stories by Marjorie Liu, and she's the author and the illustrator behind Monstrous. Monstrous is a graphic novel that I read like the first volume, I believe, or maybe the second too, and it just wasn't for me, the story itself, even if the graphic part of it was amazingly beautiful. Those are some of the most intricate and mesmerizing graphic representations that I've ever seen. So I really hope that this collection of short stories, that apparently was her debut, will be something that I will enjoy, since in the last one my problem was with like the story content mainly. Then we have a kind of comedic historian fiction fantasy retelling of history, and it's My Contrary Mary. This is part of the books released by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, Jody Meadows. The other ones were about Janes, so My Lady Jane, Calamity Jane, things like that. And I read the first one, My Lady Jane. I enjoyed it so much, and the reason why I have My Contrary Mary here is that it links with My Lady Jane. Actually, we're following one of the characters from that book here, so Mary. And I really want to know more about it, and I remember laughing out loud while I was listening to that audiobook, so I hope to listen to this one in audiobook format too, because it was amazing. And here we're following like a historical retelling of English history, real history, and Mary here is Mary of Scotland, Queen of Scotland, of course. And in this world we're following a humanity that's kind of divided in human beings, and then there are shapeshifters, and there is a fight among them that is like the fight there was there amongst like Christianity and Catholicism, sorry, and Protestants. So it's just lovely. I mean, she can transform into a mouse, and she's the queen, and it's just amazing. Next one has very dark tones, completely contrary to what we've just seen, and it's Star Eater, that apparently is a horror fantasy standalone, so very different from what I usually read, but I don't know what it is, the title or the cover or the concept that really draws me in. And in this one we're following a woman who is part of a sisterhood of magical bloodline that's very dark, and she tries to escape it, and trying to escape it she enters the rich world, let's say the opulent rich world. And what it says on Goodreads is that it's a phantasmagorical indictment of hereditary powers. Star Eater takes readers deep into a perilous and uncanny world where even the most powerful women are forced to choose what sacrifices they will make so that they might have any choice at all. So I think that it will go in very dark places, and I don't know if I will be able to stomach it, but it still kind of attracts me, so maybe I will give it a go in the future. Next is a young adult first one in a series or a duology, and it's This Poison Heart, again with a lovely cover. And in this one we're following Bree, who is a young girl with, or a young woman with magical powers to grow things, and one day her aunt, I believe, passes away, and she leaves in inheritance her estate and all of her belongings to Bree and her family. So they move into this estate that's kind of mysterious, and something's not very right there, and people start coming at this place asking for elixirs and things. So Bree starts to evolve her powers, creating in the apothecary these elixirs and potions and stuff, until a group of people arrives that wants her and her powers in order to obtain the elixir for immortality. So then she has to protect herself and her powers and her family. So it sounds as an amazing young adult fantasy read, plus apparently it's LGBTQ+, so great premise. Then we have an adult fantasy novella called The Return of the Sorceress by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and what I loved about this one is that we're following a disgraced adult main character who is a former sorceress on a desperate mission. She needs to gain back her powers in order to go against an usurper, and it means losing a lot of her friends and allies from the past, and it just seems like a great point of view, a bit different from the ones that we're usually following. So an adult protagonist, someone who probably has a great morality, so I'm all in for it. And the last one is a historical adult book that is set in the 70s in California. It's called Bloody Sunshine. It has this amazing cover. It really makes me think about the 70s. And we're following Jackie Pierce. For her, everything changed on the summer of 1979 when she spent her 3 months of freedom from school, I believe, at her bohemian uncle's sprawling estate on the California coast. So there she meets artists, musicians, and a lot of people. Plus, she kind of spends the summer with her cousin. But unfortunately, one day her cousin mysteriously disappears, and 20 years later we're following Jackie as she has to get back to the estate, and a lot of the events of that summer start resurfacing, and apparently it has a bit of a mystery in it too. So a lot of questions about her cousin's disappearance start to pop up here and there, and she must discover a very dark secret linked to it. So I don't know, it sounds a lovely mix of extreme sunshine and a bit of darkness, so I think that it will be quite an interesting read. Again, perfect for summer, so maybe for next summer this will be something that I will pick. So this is it for this part. That's part 1. Part 2 will be arriving soon with all of the books that I was anticipating for July and August, but again, that way you don't have to wait. You just can go and buy them or borrow them or listen to them. Do whatever you want. Let me know down below if you were interested in some of these books already, if you knew about them, or if there are some others that I missed that were released on June of 2021, and I will come back with the part 2 very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Ciao.